The Golden Mines Mercedes limo picked me up in front of my factory at 10 o'clock that morning. I must have questioned myself 100 times during the ride there as to whether or not I was doing the right thing. Maybe I should retire my high roller career now, take my $500,000 in the Golden Mines, the $130,000 in the Polynesian, and put it with the rest of my cash that I got safely hidden away in my bank safety deposit box. Or do I leave the Golden Mines with millions? This has to be the right time. All the stars are aligned. Besides that, it looks like it won't be long before the Treasury Department gets their hands on the casino's tills. And when that happens, I'll be done. I sat back in the limo's plush interior, staring out the window in the deepest thoughts. There were more than a few times when the uncertainty overwhelmed me. It felt as though my flesh was going to separate from my skeleton. That's when I reverted to my Christian upbringing. Of course, the non-believer that I am is hoping to see some kind of sign from above. I walked into the Baccarat pit. The stage was set. Charlie Myers, Steve Levy, and the casino manager were standing in the center of the pit. I nodded my head and they nodded back as I passed them on the way to my reserve table with a $500 minimum to $20,000 maximum sign on it. The dealer's chip rack is filled with $5,000 grays and $1,000 oranges. Sitting on display next to his rack is my racks, $100,000 in oranges and $400,000 in grays. I sat down as the dealer moved my racks in front of me. Charlie, Steve, and the casino manager didn't move from the center of the Baccarat pit. I signed, the dealer shuffled, I cut. He shows me the buried card and we're off. I started with a $1,000 bet. I lost the first 3 hands and then won 2 in a row. The next hand I pushed with a 20. Then I bet the limit $20,000. He dealt me a 6 and a 9 for 15 against his 10. There was nothing to think about. Surrender, I said. Mr. V, you're joking, right? The dealer said. Joking? Do I look like I'm joking? Don't you know? Know what? As of today, there is no more surrender. Now you're joking, I said, as the pit boss brought the front page of the Atlantic City Times to the table for me to read. Governor Kane says, no more surrender. Even though the governor of New Jersey has complied with the representatives of the Atlantic City casino industry, he did not echo the commission's predictions that the surrender option would have a severe financial impact on the casinos, especially during the rest of the year. In fact, Kane said he had made his decision, despite some misgivings, and he indicated that acting on his own, he might have reached a different conclusion. He did not want to infringe upon the commission's authority. To second-guess the commission now, on a matter of seemingly critical importance to the health of our infant casino industry, would be unwise and short-handed. Is this fucking guy nuts? I said out loud. Second-guess the commission. The casinos have been raking in millions over the past 6 years with surrender, and now they're worried about the health of their infant industry. Give me a break. What about the health of the infant casino gambler like myself? As you could guess, no one from their side of the fence said a word. I turned around looking for Charlie Myers to ask him why he never told me about this, but he was nowhere to be found. I was contemplating on whether to pick up my chips and run, but where was I going? So I picked up a few grays and held them in my hand for a short time. Then I said, fuck surrender, and I fired away. The battle lasted a relentless 3 hours. It was all one-sided. Then it came down to my last wager. I stood up and looked around the Baccarat pit, only to see just a few players on the tables. Charlie, Steve, and the casino manager had already left the arena. I turned back around and looked down at the dealer's cylinders of gray and orange chips. No less than $3 million was staring me right in the face. I had 2 aces and the pitiful dealer had a 6 of spades showing. The casino crew waited in great anticipation. Could the comeback kid pull one last trick out of his hat? Unfortunately for me, my hat was empty. Hit it, I said. Player not splitting aces, he said, and took the next card out of the shoe and laid it next to my aces. A queen of clubs, and now I had 12. I took one more card, and it's also a queen. Player breaks, he said softly, and then with a sigh, he picks up my last $1,000 orange chip. The dealer, pit boss, and floor person looked at me with great despair. I walked out of the Baccarat pit across the casino floor to the credit department. After I filled out all the information and signed the papers, I was out the door and on the boardwalk. I walked and walked. My mind was lost in a place that was neither heaven nor hell. I sat down at a table in the Baccarat pit in the Polynesian and started negotiating. I signed for my $130,000 that I left in the cage for a rainy day, and I was soaked. Not only was I $500,000 lighter and without the option to surrender, now they laid more bullshit on me. Mr. V, the pit boss said, I'm sorry, but the best we can do today is a $300 to $10,000 game. Why is that? I said, it was just last week when I got a $13,000 game. Yes, Mr. V, he said with a smug look on his face. You also made a $200,000 buy-in, not a $130,000 one. Oh, I see. In other words, what you're telling me is that my $130,000 doesn't warrant a $13,000 game. Let me ask you a question. How much money do you make a year? You know, after taxes, what, 50, maybe 60 G's? Would you have the balls to bring it to the table? I stood up and stared into his eyes. I had a look on my face like as if he blinks the wrong way. I'll rip his fucking heart out. He took a few steps back, then walked over to the desk and made a call. A few minutes later, the casino manager walked into the baccarat pit and 2 security guards stood at the entrance. Richard, is everything all right? No, things aren't all right. I'm making a $130,000 buy-in, and this knucklehead is only giving me a $10,000 game. I think by now I deserve at least a $13,000 game. How about if we compromise and we'll make it a $12,000 game? How's that sound? I guess I don't have a choice now, do I? He kind of smiled, then he walked away. 3 hours later, I finished signing up for 45 days interest-free casino credit at the Polynesian and the Coliseum. I left Atlantic City and headed for the sanctuary of my home. I'm sitting in the back of the Golden Mines limo, seeing a much gloomier view of La La Land. Before I cross the bridge into Philly, I have my next assault planned. I'll take the $200,000 in cash that I have hidden away in my safe deposit box and add it to the $100,000 credit line that the Golden Mines, Polynesian, and Coliseum had approved me for. I'll get a big enough game to win back my losses before the feds bring in the Security Act law.